welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join us. We're pretty excited about this little project and all the products that we're releasing now. So I'm going to walk you through some of these products just in brief. And then if there are any questions at all, you've got a little chat screen on the side there, so just ask questions. Dave will be monitoring that and interrupting me as questions come in. So do feel free to put any questions or comments in there as we go through. So the foundation line of products is something that we've been working on for various markets, and we're currently releasing the foundation for the US market. So what is the foundation range? Essentially, the foundation range is a range of products that was it's based on our PowerSync products. We currently have, as you're probably aware, a bunch of new products or PowerSync products that we've been developing for a little while. So what we've decided to do with the foundation range is basically put a slightly different spin on those products that we already had developed. So the variants of the Lumascape foundation and architectural ranges, they do feature the same high-performance optics, so all the good stuff, all your easy glow, the really nice beam angles, the excellent color over angles and designer lenses and all that sort of stuff. They have the same premium construction, so in the cases of our stainless steel product, they're 316 stainless steel. In the case of our aluminium product, they're marine grade, either extruded or cast. So it's still all the same really high-end stuff. The primary difference is that they don't actually require PowerSync for dimming. So what we've tried to do is where we have applications which don't need the complexity or don't need the granular control or the fast theatrical grade control of the PowerSync product, we're actually able to control them with more simple control protocols. So the options are, in terms of control, are non-dimmable. We have daily dimming for the CE markets, and for the US markets, we have 0 to 10 volt dimming. And those control signals, the daily and the 0 to 10, they actually go directly to the luminaire. So there's no need for any converters or anything in between. In the case of a 0 to 10 volt product, you basically have a 5-core cable. You've got active, neutral, earth, as well as your two 0 to 10 volt dimming lines. So essentially what it is all of the photometric performance of the full-fledged PowerSync range. However, we're trying to hit a more economical price point by removing some of the complexity, which is not always needed. So the products that we're releasing in the foundation range this evening, are the QUADRALUX range, so both the Q2 and the Q4 spotlights, the Q6 and the Q8 spotlights. We also have the LINEALUX L3 foundation range, so that's our linear grazer products. We have our E6 foundation N-grade, which is a pretty exciting product in itself, and I'll come to that one. We have its little brother, the E4, which is currently available as a PowerSync product, but is now available as foundation as well. And we also have 3 of our popular CENTRIA spotlight products being released into the foundation family this morning as well. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So I'll start with the ERDEN E4. The E4 is it's an in-grade product. This particular product it's a single color, up to 1850 lumens from 18 watts, so over 100 lumens per watt. Input voltage ranges are for the European market with their DALI, 220 to 240 volts. And in the USA, it's 120 or 277 60 hertz. So all the premium colors, white colors are available. So we've got 2700, 3000, 3500, 4000, and 5000 Kelvin, as well as a nice range of beam angles. So all the way from 10 degrees to 47 degrees. And we also have some really cool elliptical beams, which are pretty handy as well. And I'll show you those in a couple of minutes. On top of that, we do have the grip glass, or our OptiClear, which is a very, very clear glass. And again, I'll speak about some of those features a little more as we move through.
Cameron, we have our first question from the audience here, and the question is, can we tilt this luminaire?
Absolutely, we can. I can see that's coming there from Philip. So yes, thank you for that question. The answer is yes. So the product can be tilted 20 degrees forwards or 5 degrees back, and it can also be rotated 360 degrees by adjustments within the gimbal itself. So all of the adjustability of the full-fledged PowerSync product is still available with these foundation lines. So we can see from the E4 the depth. It's quite a small product at 8.7 inches. Inside a pre-install kit, takes it down to about 12.8 or 13 inches. Those pre-install kits are a really nice little spec locker. I'm sure most of you are familiar with our products already. But there's nothing better than giving away some pre-install kits or selling some pre-install kits into a project. It's very difficult to get off spec once you concrete it into the ground with a pre-install. And of course, they can be shipped ahead of time. Alrighty, so just going through some of the features of these. So I'll start with the pre-installation on the left. These are the matrices which you're probably already familiar with. So all of the white colors, we have our OptiClear and grip glass. We also have our stainless steel polished or brushed lids, and we have different cable entries. So on this particular one, for a pre-install, bottom entry hardwired, and then of course we have all of our beam angles and our different mounting options, and our control down the bottom there. So you can either select a non-dimmable or a DALI, or a 0 to 10. For the US market, we're not actually supporting DALI in the US market. I don't believe it's very popular over there. So currently for the US, we're looking at the non-dimming and the 0 to 10 volt models. The direct burials are mostly the same options, the only difference being that rather than having the pre-install or the mounting collar options, it's straight into the direct burial.
Hey, Cameron, we have a second question here from the audience. Yep. Jerry Strand's asking, is it a voltage range of 120 through 277?
That's actually an excellent question. No, it isn't. It's 120 or 277. The reason for that is that the way the electronics in a lot of these new products are developed is such that the filtering, the EMC filtering, which allows FCC compliance, is tuned for various voltages. And in a lot of these cases, it's tuned for 120 and 120 and 277. But if you actually select like a two-phase 200, I think it's two-phase 220 or 240 in the States, it actually won't be compliant with FCC. So technically, yes, it will work, but it's not compliant at that voltage. So it is 120 or 277 volts with most of these products. Do you see much application for 240 volts? It's actually an opportunity, I guess, to get some feedback from you guys as well. But yeah, so if you guys want to comment as to whether or not you see that, the 240 volt two-phase in the USA, I'd be interested to know. So beam angle orientation. So we have these really nice elliptical beams. There's the narrow horizontal and the horizontal and the vertical. In the horizontal, it's basically an elliptical beam, which is really useful for grazing. It's good for big flat surfaces and things like that. We also have the narrow vertical, which is really useful for lighting more rectangular sort of architecture. So you can select one or the other, and you can still aim those around. So quite useful. Now the E6, this is one that I'm personally pretty excited about. We've been looking at releasing this product, and I've been thinking about this product and for quite some time, and finally we've managed to put some resources and make it happen. So 2,400 lumens from a very shallow luminaire. Again, same stainless steel construction, the same premium optics, the same premium LEDs. Quite similar to the 3040 that I showed a moment ago, or the E4 that I showed a moment ago, except, yeah, as I say, 2,400 lumens. So it's it's a pretty nice little fixture. This is also being released into the PowerSync family as well. So there is a PowerSync variant of this, which has just been released onto the website, which is definitely worth taking a look. So the 3 installation types for both of these products, we have a pre-installation where we have the pre-installation collar goes in. For the European market, we also sell just the mounting collar for swinging into decks and grates and things like that. Or we have the direct burial, which is for burying directly into the earth or into the ground. So,
Cameron, can I interrupt you again? We've got a slew of questions and comments that have come in over the last couple slides.
Absolutely.
So we've had multiple people respond, not much or not in my market for the 240 volt application.
Yep,
and then Dave's asking, is it drive overrated? And what about human touch?
Also both very, very good questions. So in the pre-install kit, absolutely, definitely drive overrated. They have very high ratings. I believe they're IK10 as well. But yeah, most definitely once it's in a pre-install kit, they are absolutely drive overrated. So the next, were there some other questions there, Dave?
Just what was drive overrated and also about the human touch technology.
Oh, sorry. Human touch, definitely. And I will come to that one in a moment because that's an important one to point out. So more or less the same code structure as the previous one. The only difference, of course, is the shallower depth. Down to 180 millimeters. So the installation options, of course, are the same for the 2. So we have our direct burial, which is buried directly into the ground, our mounting collar, or this is the pre-installation kit here. All right, so key features, of course, number 1, human touch. So the human touch makes sure that we don't ever see glass temperatures exceed 65 degrees Celsius. I'm not 100% sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's a temperature which is hot enough to know that it's hot and you need to move, but not hot enough to actually burn you in the time that it will take you to move away. The lid and body is full 316 stainless steel marine grade. The screws themselves are also marine grade. And they are Teflon coated. So when you do up a screw, a stainless steel screw into a stainless steel part, what happens is they gall, and that galling is like a cold welding. As you do them up, it'll actually start to squeak, and then it's very, very difficult to undo, number 1, but also it's difficult to get enough torque on it to actually seal it. So we've Teflon coated the screws themselves. So when you see our screws, they're actually a darker grey colour, and that's the Teflon coating. So that allows you to get a lot more torque onto the screws to really make sure that those seals are going to work well. And also it means that in the future you'll be able to get the top off a lot more easily if you need to service or re-aim the product. The LEDs themselves are premium Luxian LEDs, so we use Luxian LEDs only in all of our products. And these are the designer LEDs which are being used in the foundation ranges. So the designer optics, so there's virtually no color over angle separation, so really, really nice smooth beams, even in the very, very narrow beams down to 10 degrees. I can see Bob's got a question there in relation to anti-wicking, and I will come to that in a moment. Absolutely, this has that. Lumascape invented that many, many years ago. And we have begun to roll that out with all of our foundation products as well as our premium PowerSync products. So gimbals, aimable, 15 degrees. Dave?
Yeah, sorry, it was just a cough, but there is actually another question, and someone's asking, are the screws tamper-proof?
So currently the screws are they're not tamper-proof as such, but these larger products, it's an Allen head. It's actually a metric Allen head, so I guess that's reasonably tamper-proof in the US. If you do need a snake eyes for particularly risky tamper-proof or tamper applications, then we can definitely take a look at doing that on a case-by-case basis. We have found that the Allen heads are reasonably tamper-proof anyway. Your normal everyday vandal doesn't generally have a set of Allen keys in his skateboard set, but he's highly likely to have a Phillips head screwdriver in there with a 12mm spanner or a 1/2-inch spanner. So it's not something that you would generally see out in the field floating around. So we to date haven't had any issues with tampering with the Phillips head. Sorry, with the Allen head screws. With Phillips head screws, we certainly have. It's more common to see someone to try and smash one than to actually try and remove the lid.
You know, since we're paused for questions here, there was one more question that came in and said, is there any way to make sure aiming them all the same during the day, like a degree marker? Like, is there any sort of a gauge inside when you're aiming it to say, I've got this tilted either 75%?
So
or
on these products, no, there isn't. Okay, so on these particular products, no, there isn't. However, there is a method that that is commonly becoming common in the industry, and certainly we like to use, which is there are spirit level apps on iPhones which work really, really well, and there are some that will even work with your Apple Watch. So what you basically do is you can choose an angle, you can aim one of them with the iPhone against the glass, against the front of the lens. And then as you tilt that, it'll adjust the angle on the spirit level app, and you can then save. Generally, you can save angles as well that way, and you can go and dial them in. That's normally the request for that, or the requirement for that, is the O&M manuals to make sure that there's a record of where they were set to. So we find that works reasonably well. The only thing is you need a friend with a second phone, of course, so he can take a photo of you aiming yours. But you can take a screenshot of your own phone, I guess, with the angle on it too. So that generally works pretty well. And you can do that with any of our aimable fixtures. So it tends to work reasonably well.
That's a great.
The body itself, we should probably do a little video on that actually, just and stick it on our YouTube on how to aim like that and find which app works well, or create our own. So the housings of these, and that's one of the things that sets our products apart, is that the bodies are full 316 stainless steel. It's not aluminium, and it's not a low grade of material at all. It is a full 316 marine grade material. So we've never seen any corrosion on any of our in-grade products. Aluminium products, although you might get more lumens out of them, the aluminium at some point will start to corrode. It's not a good idea to put cast aluminium into the ground. So a lot of our competitors are producing aluminium product, but it's best to shy away from that.
Cameron, we do have a comment here from one of our sales rep partners saying they'd like to learn more about the use of the iPhone for aiming. So it sounds like that video is a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah. So there's if you have a look for a spirit level app or an inclinometer app, there are a few out there. I think Stanley have a reasonably good one. Most of them are free as well, which is even better. So if you download some of those and have a bit of a play with how that might work. But yeah, we certainly should do a video on that, because it's particularly useful for spotlights and things as well. Not real good for underwater light fixtures, though. I'll give you a tip. Integrated active thermal management in all of our products. So if the product is in a situation where the temperatures inside the luminaire exceed the temperature which will otherwise see reliable operation of the luminaire, it will actually switch itself off. So all of our foundation products do have integrated thermal management, and they will turn off if they get too warm. Those turn-off temperatures are not based on imminent destruction. They're based on the 50 or 60,000 hour projected life of the product. So if they're turning off, it's not because they're way too hot and there's going to be a problem. It's that they're making sure that we can maintain our useful life of the product by not having them run hot. Now they're designed not to turn off unless there is an unusual situation which is happening, so they won't just decide to turn off because it's a warm evening or something like that. They are set to reasonably high temperatures. They're all IP68 rated. Sorry, these Ingrades are IP68 rated. It is 100% acceptable to install these underwater if you would like to, and our warranty will remain intact if you do that. So these are rated, I believe they're rated to a depth of 10 meters or 30 feet. So a very, very high IP rating. Now the anti-wicking is the micro anti-leach. So all of our Ingrade products and actually most of our products now have the micro anti-leach system. If ever you see moisture inside a light fixture, there's only two ways the moisture can get in. The first way is there's either a problem with the seal, it hasn't been developed correctly, or it hasn't been done up and sealed correctly, installed correctly, or it's actually come through the cable itself. So what happens is, as the light fixture turns on, it warms up. As it turns off, it cools down. The warmer air obviously takes up a larger volume, so it expands. Then when it cools down again and contracts, it pulls a vacuum. That vacuum will actually come down the cable. And if and when there is moisture in the cable, even between the cores of the copper, and it can just be humidity that gets into a junction box that starts this process happening, it'll start pumping that moisture into the light fixture and it will fill that light fixture with water. So the way our micro anti-leach system works to get around this is that we basically expose the copper cores of all of the wires. They then get like soldered so that there's no space between them, no void between them, and the whole thing then gets encapsulated in epoxy. So Thomas, just your question there about swimming pools or fountains, they're not actually rated for, UL listed for swimming pools and fountains. Where we have seen these used in the ocean is in the ocean and rivers and places like that. So they're commonly used in marinas to light between boats and things like that is where we might see something like this used underwater. But they don't have the UL certifications for underwater, for swimming pool or fountain lighting as such. All right, so those, so they all have that micro anti-leach which prevents that moisture from wicking through. Grip glass, so there's a texture which is actually applied to the glass, and this is actually applied and glazed onto the glass. It's not etched onto the glass. Etching glass drastically weakens it. Our process is different, where we have the glass remains completely intact, and we have like a ground-up glass which gets glazed onto the surface. It doesn't wear off, but it also doesn't weaken the glass because the surface of the glass is actually not affected by the process. Easy glow, of course, which is a visual comfort technology. So around the outside of the LEDs, each LED, there's a surface which glows. So the appearance of glare is reduced by reducing the contrast between where the LED is and where the LED isn't. So essentially what you end up with is a glowing space rather than a whole bunch of really bright little dots. And it works really, really nicely. As I mentioned before, the smaller E4 is 1,850 lumens, and the E6 is almost 2,400 lumens from 25 watts. So nice little performance. OptiClear glass. So we've got an OptiClear glass that we developed years ago. It's basically a very, very low iron, very pure glass. So it means that the amount of light which is blocked by the glass is minimized. And because there is no impurities or anything, it's pure silica, you also don't get a color temperature shift or a color effect by the glass as the light passes through it. And of course, either integrated DALI or in our case, 0 to 10 volt control. So no extra equipment. Basically, you can just wire it up straight to your 0 to 10 volt controller and start dimming your light fixtures up and down. Very, very simple.
Just a comment from our audience.
Next, the Q8. So the Q8 is it's quite a high power product. So these guys in the foundation range are almost 15,000 lumens, and the peak intensity of these is over 1 million candela. So it's a really, really nice way of delivering a lot of light from quite a compact product. The weight of these is around about 28 pounds, so very lightweight for such a high output. So again, the same voltage range of 120 or 277 at 60. the difference here, what we've been able to achieve are some very, very narrow beam angles down to 4.5 degrees. And that's how we get the peak intensity of 1,000,000 candela. So if you've got something that you need to light a long way away, or you've got, you'd like to put a beam of light through smoke or something like that, really, really beautiful little beam, that one. Of course, we have the elliptical beams as well, so 10 by 60, 60 by 10, as well as some wider ones of 20 by 40, so slightly fatter elliptical beams, and all the color temperatures from 2700 to 5000 Kelvin. So the slightly smaller brother, the Q6, has a lumen output of 7,500 lumens, so it's a little bit smaller. Again, it does have that super narrow beam of 4.5 degrees. Of course, we have 55, and of course our ellipticals, which work really, really nicely for grazing, grazing pillars and things like that, or lighting quite vertical architecture. They work pretty well. So key features, these are a die-cast aluminium product. So we use a 9-step powder coating system, which includes a marine-grade epoxy undercoat. The epoxy undercoat makes sure that the moisture can't get to the aluminium. We then have a polyester top coat, which goes over the top of all that, and that protects the epoxy from the UV. So that gives us a really nice, a really good, robust protection against corrosion on these products. Again, the same premium Luxian LEDs. It's also important to point out that if you order different products, either different products or different configurations, and they're all the same color temperature, the colors that come out of them will be the same because they use the same optics and they use the same LEDs. So they will most definitely all match. So again, the premium designer optics for virtually no color over angle separation. We have a constant torque adjustable bracket. So these little brackets do have an Allen bolt through the side, but it's not actually the tension on that bolt which holds the weight of the product. There's actually a mechanism inside which really grips quite tightly. So when that's done all the way up, you can almost stand on them and they will not move. What you can see just next to that little arrow there on that bracket is a little angle adjustment there. So you can actually use that for taking a photo or adjusting them all to the same position. However, laying an iPhone on the face of it or putting an iPhone on the edge of it is most definitely the easiest way to set all those angles to be the same. Again, integrated active thermal management. So if they do overheat because something strange has happened, maybe they've left on in the sun against a concrete wall or something like that, or perhaps have been covered up by, I don't know, maybe painters are doing something, so they've covered it up. The product will actually protect itself and switch off. These are rated IP66 and IP67, but tested to IP68. This is something that we do like to explain. So this product will pass an IP68 test. It does have micro anti-leach, and it will not leak. However, it's manufactured from aluminium, so installing it underwater is not a good idea because it will corrode at some point in time because it's not an underwater. It's not designed to be installed underwater. However, the ratings are IP66 and IP67, so both, it's dual rated. Reason for that being the IP67 test is actually an easier test. It's temporary submersion, whereas the IP66 is a very high pressure jet, which is a much more rigorous test. But it's sort of counterintuitive. When you see IP67, it looks like it's a higher rating because it's a higher number. So those who believe that the IP67 is a higher rating are satisfied by the fact that we have the IP67, and those who know that the IP66 is a superior rating are satisfied because we have that rating also.
Hey, Cameron, we have a couple of questions here from the from our audience.
There are two bracket types for these large products. There's a standard bracket, which is this one here, or there's also a 3G vibration rated bracket, which complies to the ANSI standards. So for bridges or roadways or places where there might be a high level of vibration, then they absolutely have that rating. And I see Bob has just asked that question there. So yes, quite fortunate with the timing. So yeah, if you do need 3G brackets or 3D options, we have 3D options in just about every product. Most of our products are actually 3D by default. So, of course, easy glow. That's pretty important when you've got a product which is producing 15,000 lumens. That can be quite a glary product. What's quite interesting is when you have the 4.5 degree product, which has the 1 million candela, you can look directly into it up until about 6 degrees off, because the optics are just so engineered so tightly. All of the light is in the beam. So it's really quite interesting when you have a look at one of these, at how comfortable it is, even at a glancing angle, to look almost directly, of course not directly at it, but almost directly at it. So the Q6 and the Q8 are so 7,500 and 14,500 lumens. Of course, our 1 million candela peak intensity from our 4.5 degree. Of course, we have our opti-clear glass. That's a Lumascape standard, and the full marine grade aluminium construction, as well as our integral Dali and 0 to 10 volt control. Of course, the micro anti-leach that I described earlier, which stops moisture from being sucked through the cables. And one thing that we add to all of our products is galvanic isolation. So if you get an aluminium product and you screw it down or bolt it down and you damage the powder coat, which you probably will if you're bolting it down, the aluminium will actually react with the concrete that it's attached to, or galvanized steel that it's attached to, or the galvanized steel or stainless steel of the bolt itself. So what we've done is we've included pre-installed galvanic isolators on everything, which is basically a plastic pad, which makes sure as you do up the bolts and as you're installing it onto surfaces, you don't get the dissimilar metals touching each other, because you have the isolator between. So those isolators aren't just pads. Those holes are actually sleeved with plastic as well. So the bolts and the mounting hardware won't touch the aluminium at all. It's completely isolated, which protects the aluminium from that galvanic corrosion. Alrighty, so that one's not super clear, but we've been through most of the important stuff with that one anyway. What is quite nice is an elliptical beam in this style of product is really useful for sort of washing walls from close distances and things like that. So if you have a look on our website, you'll see the Marischal College project, which is a beautiful old building in Scotland, and that's been lit primarily with Q6s and Q8s. So you can see how well they wash. Lots and lots of different accessories available. So there's an accessory holder, which is the part at the back here. It's basically a cassette, or a cassette holder, which goes over the back of the fixture and bolts on without touching the aluminium itself. So no chance for corrosion or damage to the powder coat. We then have like egg crate louvers, and we also have visors that we can attach to the luminaires for further glare control. It is possible to actually have these visors produced custom. So if you need a full tube or specific shapes, it's definitely possible to have those made. So the Q6 and the Q8 both have the same style of accessory holders and accessories. So lots of different stuff that you can attach to the fronts. The Q2, quite similar, except a lot smaller. So at 33 watts and producing 3,500 lumens, quite a high performance little product. Because it's so compact though, we haven't been able to achieve the 4.5 degree beam angle, but we do get all the way down to 6, which is 9 times out of 10 for a narrow beam angle. That's more than sufficient. Of course, all the same colors and the same voltage ranges, so very, very similar product. We then have his little brother, the Q4, which is producing 5,000 lumens, also from a very compact little product. These bracket systems itself, if you have a look closely at the bottom of the fixture where the bracket actually attaches, you'll see 3 circles. The middle circle, which you can see the screw, is actually the screw that holds the bracket onto the fixture. You can remove that, and the aiming of the bracket will remain intact. So if you remove products, you don't have to re-aim them when you put them back on, because that bracket actually holds the angle. The 2 little screw holes on either side, if you reach into that with an Allen key, there's somewhere in there that you can actually pick up a screw to be able to lock that bracket's position. And again, constant torque on all of it, and I'll come to that in a moment. So key features, of course, many of these are the same as their big brothers. So our 9-step powder coating system, premium LEDs, premium designer optics, our optic-clear glass, IP66, IP67 rating, tested to IP68. Of course, micro anti-leach on the cable entries, integrated thermal management, as all of our products have. These adjustable brackets are 3G rated off the shelf by standard. So when you buy one of these products, it already is 3G rated. We, of course, have the Easy Glow, really, really nice performance, so over 100 lumens per watt for each of the Q2 and the Q4 options. Full marine grade aluminium construction, integrated DALI and 0 to 10 volt control, and the easy access locking screws for aiming adjustment. So these two screw holes on the outsides, if you loosen those off, it will allow you to angle the product or aim the fixture, but there's a constant torque mechanism built into that. So if you completely loosen those screws, the fixture will hold its position. That's pretty important for a product like this, because if you're aiming off a ladder or you're aiming off a rope, which is often done, you often don't have two hands, one to aim the fixture and one to do the screw up when you get it to just the right spot. Using that constant torque mechanism, you can basically just push it around till you like where it is, and then you can lock it off. So the whole aiming process can be done just with one hand, unless, of course, you've got your iPhone, in which case, I guess you need to be a bit careful if you're aiming with an iPhone on a rope. And, of course, the integrated galvanic isolators, which work the same way as on the bigger brothers. So you've got those plastic pads and also the plastic sleeving that runs through where the bolt actually runs through on that product. So most of the options that are important are sort of covered off, but we do have, of course, those elliptical beams. Just looking at the sizes, the Q2, it's quite compacted, only 9 inches wide. The Q4 is 13 inches wide. The Q6 is only 16 inches wide, and the Q8 is only 22 inches wide. So 1 million candela peak intensity from a fixture which is only 22 inches wide is, I think, pretty impressive. So pretty nice little range of products there. They all look the same, so really nice for deploying throughout a project. The L3 is one of the linears, which is probably the most popular product that we make at the moment is the L3 range. And we've added to the L3 range by adding a foundation variant. So again, these are 0 to 10 volt or DALI dimmable directly. All the same colors and all the rest of it as the other products, and some really, really nice grazing angles. The grazing optics that are in these have been developed by Lumascape, so they're not just optic systems that we've sort of bought off the shelf. These have been 100% developed ground up for this product. And the grazing, the color over angle, the distribution, if you haven't seen one of these, you really need to check it out because they're just phenomenal. And with a lumen output of over 1,000 lumens per foot, or 1,200 lumens per foot, a very, very high performance, compact little product. So it certainly punches above its weight in terms of its size for the output. So if you have a look at the size of it, the width of the face, it's only 1.7 inches across. And on its bracket, it's only 2.4 inches tall on its bracket. And that's producing 1,200 lumens per foot into a spectacular little beam angle. So that's really if you're looking for a grazing product, this is a pretty special little product. So you really need to take a look at these ones. So key features, of course, the active thermal management system and integrated DALI. Of course, the same premium LEDs, the same color over angle, which is very important for a grazer. When you're grazing walls, if you do have a bit of color over angle separation, you will see color banding. It's very, very obvious. With these guys, it's just pristine. So there are a couple of names in the market that are known for doing a linear grazer, which has very good color over angle. If you get a chance to put one of those next to one of these, you really need to take that opportunity and see how well this one performs. So those are our elliptical grazing options. The same ratings of IP66, IP67, and tested to IP68. These do have the same constant torque adjustable bracket mechanisms, which is pretty useful for a grazer. So you can aim them and point them wherever you want. You can walk away and make sure you're happy, get them all aimed, and then you can come back and lock them off afterwards. So you don't need to be doing it with two hands as you work through. Of course, even though it's very compact, it does include its integrated galvanic isolators, just to make sure that we don't get any corrosion happening because of damage when they're actually mounted. That bracket can actually be slid all the way up and down the product as well, so those can go anywhere you want them to. Micro anti-leach cables, and these all have interconnect, so you basically just clip these together. And the connectors themselves are rated to IP68 when they're mated, so really nice quality stuff. Of course, Easy Glow and our 9-step powder coat system, and 1,200 lumens per foot, or 4,800 lumens from a 4-foot luminaire, consuming only 46 watts. So pretty exciting performance there as well. And of course, OptiClear glass, as we have on all of our products. Okay, so not real clear, but you can see there are lots of different options that we can provide here, including a broad range of powder coat finishes. So lots of good stuff there. If you're familiar with Lumascape and you've been using us for a while, you may have seen the CENTRIA range. It's a product which has been very popular for a lot of years. It's recently had an upgrade to the foundation, so output of 2,400 lumens, which puts it right up amongst its metal halo predecessors. A power consumption of only 24 watts, and beam angles all the way down to 10 degrees now. So from 10 degrees, but we also have the linear grazing options, linear vertical, linear horizontal, as we do in a lot of our other products. And of course, all the same color temperatures and LEDs as the other products that we've spoken about earlier. So 3 different models, the C1, the C2, and the C4. The spike, which goes on the US version, is slightly different. They do use the rocket base, but the similar concept of concrete anchor. And then we have our post and our wall mount variants, and all of these take 0 to 10 volts directly into the luminaire. So of course, it's mostly the same features. So again, OptiClear, the premium Luxian LEDs, the designer optics for no color over angle separation, constant torque adjustability in the head, so that head can actually be rotated up and down, as well as rotated. Sorry, it can be aimed up and down as well as rotated on either these posts or on the base through 365 degrees. There is a mechanism which lets us go over center, so we can get past 360 degrees. The problem with 360 degree adjustment is that it's often ends up being at 359 degrees, and that 1 degree that it just can't quite get is the 1 degree that you need. With these, we can go past that, so 365, so just a little bit further than a full rotation. Again, integrated active thermal management, and the same IP ratings of 66, 67, and tested to IP68. Micro anti-leach, so that's pretty important for a product like this, which will be mounted down on the ground. The concrete anchors are all made out of plastic so that we don't have any corrosion issues in concrete. Where are we? Okay, so we also have our Easy Glow, very high performance of 2,400 lumens, integrated Dali and 0 to 10 volt control, the same 9-step powder coating systems. The products for the CE market, the base is actually a powder coated plastic, which further assists with corrosion resistance. In the USA, because of the UL regulations and standards, those are actually aluminium, so we don't have any corrosion issues in the States with those ones. Just looking at the performance of them compared to each other, so we have the E4 at 1,850 lumens, the E6 at 2,400, moving up to the CENTRIA at 2,400, then the L3 at 4,800, the Q2 at almost 4,000, the Q4 at just over 5,000, the Q6 at just over 7, and the Q8 at 14,000. So you can see these are all really nice little performers. Hopefully they're definitely up to the standards that the market expects of Lumascape in 2021.